I want to begin with the founder and executive director of the National Security Institute, Jamil Jaffer. He was the lead architect of the Iran Nuclear Agreement Review Act. Also here, White House correspondent for Bloomberg, Jeff Mason. Let's talk about where we are. I'll begin with you, Jeff, because it feels like I have seen this movie before. Perhaps we all have. We've got the president indicating many times that a deal is near, but then no tangible outcome achieved, at least yet. And then he says no deadline. So I'm wondering, what are the expectations the administration has for tomorrow?
Well, I mean, I'm wondering that too. I think then the first thing I would say is the president from the very beginning of this war has sent mixed messages. And he did that today, and you outlined that in your introduction. He not only said that the bombing could start again, and he said it would start at an even higher level if they don't agree to a deal. But he also said that they had had good talks over the last 24 hours, and that he believes that Iran has agreed to give up its nuclear program. There's no evidence that they've agreed to that. And it's also, I think, worth noting that the last time a major agreement with Iran was concluded about their about their nuclear program, it took 18 months to put together. So right now, the president, I think, is pretty clearly looking for an off-ramp and yet doesn't want a bad deal. And he said that to me in an interview a little over a week ago. Don't rush me. He doesn't want to appear to be in a rush, but he also doesn't want these hostilities to keep going.
18 months to come up with one speech to unravel that particular act, as you're talking about. I mean, a potential deal, Jamil, it might include a pause to Iran's nuclear enrichment program. It might include the U.S. lifting sanctions and unfreezing funds as well. Does it sound like the 2015 Obama nuclear deal to you? And who would be in a strength position if so?
Well, it's exactly your point. We've seen this show before. This is, if the reporting is right, that the deal has something to do with 15 years of no enrichment at 3.67%, billions of dollars in sanctions lifted, cash going back to Iran, that is literally the Obama nuclear deal. The very nuclear deal that President Trump said was a terrible deal, never to be done again, got rid of it, horrible for America, disastrous for our national security, allows Iran to get near a nuclear bomb. By the way, all true, all things he said he would never do. In fact, he said just a few weeks ago, they will never be allowed to enrich domestically. If this deal permits that, President Trump is about to enter into the exact deal that President Obama did, the deal he left, the deal he rightly excoriated, and that would be a massive mistake and come at a massive cost to Americans, a war for nothing.
Well, a worse position then, given the idea of the Strait of Hormuz being occupied, the gas price, the economic toll, and of course loss of life to a degree as well. I mean, Jeff, the president appears to have taken a pretty sharp turn just in the last 48 hours about ending the war with Iran. What's driving his mindset? Any idea?
Well, again, he takes a lot of sharp turns. I mean, if you look back at the history of this war from start to finish, he's moved from language such as saying that the entire Persian civilization would be destroyed to saying that they really want a deal and that we want a deal, and to now in the last couple of days saying the war is over. There may be a few reasons behind him saying that the war is over. One appears to be congressional. Because they've gone past the timeline that they were, the 60-day timeline that they needed. So that may be part of it. And the other part is, I guess there are multi-aspects to it. He's going to China next week. The Iran war is complicating that visit because it's a complicating factor in the China relationship. China has helped Iran. China depends more on some oil getting through the Strait of Hormuz. China's certainly not happy about this war happening. And the president isn't happy about the relationship that China has with Iran. So instead of, or at least in addition to, talking about trade, talking about tariffs, talking about potentially Taiwan, they're going to be talking about Iran. And so that's another reason why he doesn't want there to be fighting or bombing next week when he's flying to Beijing. I
mean, Rubio is saying that military operations are over, maybe to the point that you're actually raising now, and that the objectives have all been achieved. The White House does not seem eager to restart combat operations. Curiously, I wonder what the impact will be if this deal has not been reached before the China trip. Does it weaken the United States' suspicions with respect to China? If that's the case, was that part of the goal of the president?
Well, look, I certainly think it might, but I think the president is really in a position here where if he wants to act, he can. He has to make the call. He made the call on Monday. I'm going to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. I'm going to escort ships through. And Iran hawks like me cheered. This is exactly what the president do. Let's get through it. Let's reduce oil prices on our own. And then a day later, well, we're going to pause it. We'll come back to it.
Because it wasn't working, or because it wasn't going to be effective, or because he really didn't have all the leverage he needed?
Who knows, right? There are rumors now that the Saudis asked him to back off it. That seems hard to believe, right? What's more likely is we blew up 6 Iranian gunboats. They started shooting at us. It started looking like it was going to get hot again. People don't want it to get hot if we're going to get to a deal, so maybe we tone it down. And if that's a negotiating tactic, great. But then you got to get a really good deal. And if what's on offer is what we're hearing is true, that's not a good deal. The president knows a good deal. He knows how to negotiate a good deal. He's got to actually go get one. If he takes this deal that's on the table right now, it's a massive mistake. He's going to look like Barack Obama. He doesn't want that. And everyone will be rightly drawing those comparisons. So I hope he goes back to his earlier plan. And if what it takes is more bombing, if what it takes is opening the Straits of Hormuz, do it. We need to get to a better deal, not the one President Obama did.
Let's talk about what's happening at home, because one of the big pressures, congressional though they might be, and of course the deadline that War Powers Resolution codifies, is the effects on the economy. And the president's chief economic advisor says that American consumers are firing on all cylinders, and this is how.
I had the head of one of the big 5 banks in my office yesterday going through the credit card data, and just as Secretary Bessent said, credit card spending is through the roof. They're spending more on gasoline, but they're spending more on everything else, too.
Credit card debt is a bragging point now? Why? Why is he playing this strategy?
Well, I don't know the answer to that in terms of why he's emphasizing credit card debt. But America, the United States consumer, the U.S. consumer, American consumer spend a lot of money. And that's a sign of it certainly is a sign of economic health when people are doing that. That doesn't mean there aren't signs of economic fear as well, and job loss, and concern about inflation and concern about prices. Affordability, as we've talked about multiple times, is expected to be a really big theme in the midterm elections. And President Trump loved, before the war, talking about or taking credit for bringing down the cost of fuel and bringing down the cost of goods, and saying that he had tamed the tiger of inflation that came during the Biden administration. He just can't say that anymore. And he also can't blame the previous administration, because there's a direct line between the increase in gasoline prices right now and the war that he started with Israel. Maybe the gas prices will come down between now and November. He's banking on that. He's certainly promising it. And I will say that I think some Democrats are probably pulling quotes from both him and from Secretary Bessent about gasoline prices coming down below 4 or 3 or whatever they've promised before November. And I imagine they'll be in some ads this fall if those gasoline prices don't get there.
Look, the average American looks at credit card debt as borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. They don't have the money. That's why it's on the credit card. I don't see it as a winning issue. Jamil, Jaffer, Jeff Mason, thank you both so much.